Okay, it is time to work on the racing mower again. I already have the body panels off of it, and what I'm going to continue to work on is the foot brake system. So don't mind the marker, but this is going to be what you push on to make it stop. If you remember, I already have a rotor and a caliper in there. But in order to make it all fit, I'm going to have to go ahead and modify this body panel right here. So that means cutting out this little section right here to give the pedal that you push on a spot to come up out of the frame, and I'll have to mount some sort of pivot location on the chassis. So first thing first is to cut that little notch out, test fit. Then I'm going to have to go over there, cut a notch out on the mower deck half over there so I can then feed the brake pedal down through that. And then I got to come up with a way to make it pivot and mount the cable. I had went ahead and pieced together some bicycle brake cable parts and pieces. So that's what all this is here. I don't have all of them. Some of them are going to be coming in the mail in the next couple days. But I'll have the skeleton of the brake cable here and ready to go for when the rest of the pieces show up. Okay, there is the bolt brake in its spot on the right side foot area. My next task is to figure out how I want to route that cable. So when I push on this pedal, it pulls on the lever down here to activate the brake, which is down there. So let me think about that for a minute and we'll come back. All right, I have put it up on blocks and have done some thinking and planning about how I want to route the brake cable, and it's going to be simple. I'm just going to go ahead, drill a hole here to feed the brake cable up to, and then the cable will come out, around, go back, and then go across again and meet up with the lever over here. Not ideal because I have to cross the chassis twice, and there's going to be a belt and whatnot going through there, but it was the easiest way to do it with what I have to work with, meaning the brake setup and cable and whatnot. However, I'm kind of at a standstill with that because I don't have the right pieces nor enough pieces. Some of these ends and caps and whatnot aren't the right size for the cable that I bought. So luckily there's only a few bucks a bag here for these crimpers and the caps. That cable was the most expensive part. I bought 5 feet of it and I think it was $4 a foot, something like that. So I'm going to have to reorder the caps the right size, and then I got to wait for some other parts and pieces to come in so I can actually build the brake cable. So what I'm going to do instead is something a little bit more interesting to me anyways. I don't know how much of it I'm going to end up filming, but I'm going to build an exhaust system for that. So let me go back over there for a second and we'll see what I'm talking about. This is the factory exhaust pipe and muffler that came on the tractor. The exhaust port is here. It went down and looked like this and squirted the exhaust gas out the front. What I'm going to do is take those pipes, weld them to this flange that I'm going to have to cut off, because the flanges that I have were for a Briggs engine, but a different Briggs engine. Not this one exactly, but I'm just going to go down and make it go out the back of the tractor. The plan is to make it exit somewhere back here. So that should be pretty cool. So these are the flanges that the exhaust kit, or I should say the build your own exhaust kit I bought came with. These do fit a Briggs engine, but I believe it's probably like a Briggs 5-horse or some other Briggs engine that you would usually use in a go-kart, because I ordered all these parts from BMI carts. And this is the exhaust system from the flange for Intech or a Briggs & Stratton Intech 18 horse engine. So it's a little bit different. You know, the holes don't exactly line up. So what I'm going to have to do is just take this flange, you know, cut the welds to the factory exhaust off, and then just build off of there. Not a big deal, not really, it doesn't really cause any problems for me. I just, you know, have a couple flanges that I can't use on this project in particular. Okay, this is the exhaust pipe I ended up coming up with. When I started the exhaust system and was thinking about ordering parts and whatnot for the racing lawnmower itself, I didn't really know what I was going to do with the exhaust, how it was going to be routed. And when I was ordering parts from BMI Carts for it, I happened to notice that they had a DIY go-kart exhaust kit. It came with a 90-degree bend, it came with a 180-degree, and it came with 45 and a few straight pieces. So I said, alright, I'll order that and piece it together the best way that I can. And when I ended up getting right down to it, all I ended up doing was using the factory exhaust pipe over here, doing a 90, and then literally just going straight back. So, and, you know, knowing that now, I could have bought a long piece of straight pipe and then made a downturn out of some kind of bend, and then just needed a 90, and then I ended up using the factory header, so to say. My original plan that I started with was using the factory flange and then working off of that, and would probably end up coming up with a similar bend to the factory header anyways. So I initially did cut this off and was going to start working off of it, but then I was looking and I said, well, if I cut it down here where the muffler would attach, I already have a pipe that brings the exhaust gases from over here to down here, and I just have to go straight back. So that's exactly what I have here. So I'm just going to kind of mock it back up on the chassis, and I got to come up with a couple spots to mount some brackets that I can then bolt the back half of this to the chassis so it's not flopping around and completely relying on magic to hold it in place. Okay, so the exhaust is on there now. Those are tight. Pipe goes straight down. It's all fully welded and whatnot. It runs right down the side of the chassis. I have a couple brackets to hold it into place. There's one here, and then there's one back there. It runs straight out the back. I was gonna just modify the slice that I already had in there, but I couldn't get it to look correct with the way the bend was, so I just lobbed it off flat. I don't really like it as much, but it'll do. Alright, so since I've kind of almost reached a standstill point with where I'm at, I'm going to start tackling the wiring. Now, I mean, it is still just a lawnmower, so the wiring's not going to be super fancy or anything. It's not going to be over the top, but I have a basic ignition switch to replace the factory one that's here. It's kind of crappy, and it has a lot of extra nonsense that I don't really need. So I'm just going to remove that and put in a very simple one. And the starter relay that would have come on this tractor from the factory somehow went missing in at some point in its life, since it had been parked off into the pasture, so to say. So I got some replacement Chinese ones. I got them in like a pretty, not really a bulk pack, but I bought a bunch of them at the same time to get a cheaper price. So I have a new relay, starter relay, that'll get mounted over here. The battery, I went to Walmart and bought a Walmart special battery. It's a motorcycle one. Those are kind of more expensive than other batteries, but it'll fit in this little cavity right here nicely. So my plan is to take my ignition switch, mount it up in the factory location, take the relay itself, mount it somewhere right about here, maybe here actually, and on the other side of course, and then figure out how to do the wiring so it all works. And yeah, I have to of course do a kill switch. There's a stator coil in there for charging the battery back up. This little bit of wiring here is for the lights. I'm going to sort of leave that here for now because I need to get some light system for the front of that. I don't know, I haven't quite decided what I want to do with that. Been trying to convince one of the Chinese people who seem to hound everybody with LED light bars and pods and whatnot to send one, but apparently they're all fresh out. I'm waiting for more people to steal them for them, I guess, I don't know. So, but the wiring cord is right there. There's going to be no wiring back here, of course. It's all going to be super simple. But that's what I'm going to be doing. It's not super interesting stuff, so I'm going to turn the camera off and come back when I'm done, or when something interesting happens. Oakley dokley, I have a lot of wiring bits and pieces here, and I have completed the basic wiring setup. I'm going to bring you around the other side and show you what I got going on, because it's easier to see over there, or from over there. All right, that's all of the wiring. It's kind of a little bit of a ratty nest right now because I don't have any of it tied up, but I was just piecing it together. That's the motorcycle battery that I bought from the Wally World. The starter relay is right here. So as you can see, there's big juice that goes from there. When this relay shuts, it sends power across there. The ignition switch is back over there, and then this little splice jump thing there's for the tethered kill switch. There's one ground right here, and then there's one ground for the dash up over here, so there's only two grounds on the entire machine. So, shall we test it? So I have the spark plug out right now, so it's just going to spin freely like it has no compression. But I have the circuitry to make it start. And spoiler alert, I have tested all of the kill switches, either with the key or the tethered, and they operate as they should. They kill spark like they're supposed to. Basically, if you don't know, on like a lawnmower or anything like that, the kill switch, or when you turn the key off, just grounds the coil out. So instead of sending a signal to the spark plug to fire, it just gets grounded and the signal just gets sent nowhere. But anyways, the point is they work. So this is a runner if it had fuel. So the factory ignition would go here. All I did is took a big washer like that and welded it around the bigger hole that this used to be in, and then this hole happened to be the right size for the ignition, so it kind of nifty looking. I don't know, it's kind of, the welds are kind of stitched in there, so they look okay. Then the kill switch is just sort of lodged in the bottom of the decked PTO switch that was once there. I might put a block off plate here, I might not, I don't know. I'm leaning more towards not. But anyways, the only thing that is not used on the ignition is there's an accessory plug. That would be for like in the on position, sending juice to a light switch for the lights or something like that. Whenever I figure out what I'm going to do for lights for the front of that hood, that position will be used. At some point I'll probably have it so it turns power on to a switch down here, and you could flip the switch and then the lights would come on or something like that. But for now, this is what all I got going on. That's my throttle. I do have a bike handle, used to be brake lever for a bicycle, that I'm going to put on the steering wheel itself as opposed to this. Right now that throttle is still hooked up, but I gotta change the throttle, so that'll just be an open slot there. Wiring wise, this is just an amp meter that tells you how much amps the stator is sending to the battery. Right now I don't have that hooked up at all. So at some point when I get around to it, probably as like a finishing touch, I gotta hook up the charging system and whatnot so it all functions like it's supposed to. So for today, I'm calling it quits. I'm not gonna send fuel into that carburetor and fire her up. I would like to hear what the exhaust system sounds like, but I just don't have time right now. So we'll catch it again another day.